Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope wherever you may be across this great country, across this great land, I hope you are having a fantastic Tuesday. We got a lot to get to, but let me say right off the top, go rate the podcast. Whether it's Outkick the Show, whether it's Outkick the Coverage, or the new Wins and Losses podcast, be funny, be smart, be creative. Make fun of people who are on the show. Fire away as much as you might need to. And, oh no, my hair is falling apart here. That was a dangerous move by me to try to make it perfect. I just woke up from a nap, and things have already gone deliriously and hopelessly askew here. I don't know what happened, but I look like alfalfa. Hold on. I'm gonna have to get a little bit of water on it. I apologize to everybody for starting off your afternoon with this disastrous of a hair look. My hair never does that, and now it's falling apart. It's falling apart. I try to just make it a little bit more perfect, and I turn into alfalfa. This is not good. It's not good at all. All right, think I got it covered. Think I got it taken care of. All right, I'd encourage you to go listen to the newest Wins and Losses podcast. As soon as I finish this show, I'm going to be recording with Joel Klatt. He's an awful human being, but he's going to be this week's guest, and I hope that you guys will enjoy it, and we will be off and running with that. That'll be next week's guest, but we got a lot to get to. All right, somebody just told me to get some Botox. That's unnecessary. I'm 40 years old now, and I'm all natural. I'm all natural. Nothing about me is fake. My hair, flawless, all natural. These bags under my eyes, all natural from having 50 different jobs. These creases in my face, all natural from worrying perpetually about everything to do with all my businesses and all my kids, and the fact that they've been out of school for like 11 weeks in a row and they were driving us all crazy. All of it natural. Never had an ounce of work. This is what perfection looks like. All right, Dak's contract. I'm going to dive in on this. This is crazy. The way this story is developing. Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks on the hot seat. Are they going to actually cover the Antonio Brown debacle, or is it going to be state-sponsored NFL media where nothing interesting actually happens? Kamala and Elizabeth Warren, they lie directly about Michael Brown. Hands up, don't shoot was 1,000,000,000% a lie. They accuse the officer in this case of murder. I don't understand why this isn't a bigger story in a media that is supposedly obsessed with calling politicians on their lies. It's amazing how much lack of sound there has been on this. Cuomo, I don't even know really who Chris Cuomo is. I think he's Mario Cuomo's son. He was called Fredo. He said that calling people who are Italians Fredo is the equivalent of calling an Italian person the N-word. If you haven't seen this video, we're going to try to splice it in around my analysis of Chris Cuomo's threatening to beat somebody up who called him Fredo. Whatever you do, don't call Chris Cuomo Fredo. We have got ESPN. I actually think this is an interesting story. Sports Business Journal. If you remember, it feels like a long time ago in the internet outrage sports community, 7 years ago, there was a ESPN editor who wrote a Jeremy Lin story. It was in the middle of Linsanity. Some of you are so young, you're not even going to remember it. But it was in the middle of Linsanity, and Jeremy Lin's Knicks team couldn't lose. He was taking over completely the entirety of the NBA. And then out of nowhere, they lose a game, and the ESPN editor, the headline on ESPN.com was "Chink in the Armor." And people lost their mind over the fact that this guy was coming in and saying that Jeremy Lin, who was Asian, the chink in the armor storyline turned into a huge blown-up story. And so as a result, there was all this talk about how it was unacceptable and everything else, and he ends up getting fired by ESPN. He's become a priest. I'm going to talk about that because I find it to be thoroughly interesting. But we begin with Dak Prescott. But first, I got to take a drink here. Oh, man. I was thirsty. All right. So, Dak Prescott. Reports are out there, and in negotiations, let me say this off the top, There's always a lot of different contradictory storylines that are out there. But reports have emerged that there was a $30 million offer per year made to Dak Prescott, and that he said, that's not enough money. I need $40 million a year. Now, that report has been out there, was circulating. This is one of the craziest stories I've seen in the world of NFL contract negotiations, maybe ever. Let me explain why. I am in favor of every person who has a job making as much money as possible. But everyone is a function of their value relative to the market. And so I want to start here. Before we talk about what the Cowboys should pay Dak Prescott, I want to pretend that the NFL is entirely a free agent-filled market right now. Okay? Every single player can sign anywhere in the NFL they want. If you had a straight-up race to sign all the top quarterbacks in the NFL, Dak Prescott is squarely somewhere in the 16 to 20 range in terms of how quickly he would get signed. He is not for 1 year, right? I'm not talking about like 10 years or anything like that. For 1 year, you would take Drew Brees, no particular order, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, and these are in no order, all right? You would take all sorts of quarterbacks. If we just run down the list, Andrew Luck, you can name them yourself. There are at least 15 quarterbacks that everybody would rather have. Patrick Mahomes, of course, Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger. Again, just run down the list of all of the quarterbacks. At best, you could maybe say that Dak Prescott is around the 16th best quarterback in the NFL. And honestly, I think people would rather have Carson Wentz. I think they would rather have a healthy Cam Newton. I think there are a lot of guys, in fact, all right? So, where would he be drafted around 16th, all right? If Dak Prescott is arguing that he deserves to be the highest paid player, not just quarterback, but player in the history of the NFL, if he is actually arguing that, then this is one of the most ludicrous overvaluations in the history of NFL contract negotiations. If he turned down $30 million a year, he is insane. That would put him as one of the 5 highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, let's circle around. So, if he were being drafted, he's somewhere around 16, 17, 18, in that neighborhood of overall NFL quarterbacks, okay? Now let's think about available quarterback positions. Let's pretend you're the Miami Dolphins. If you are the Miami Dolphins right now, would you sign Dak Prescott if he were available on the open market and you had to give him $25 million? Would you sign him? No way on the planet would the Miami Dolphins sign Dak Prescott for $25 million if he were an unrestricted free agent. Let me explain why. First of all, we know Ryan Fitzpatrick, and it appears Josh Rosen are not the long-range answers with the Miami Dolphins. That means right now they're projected that they're going to go into the draft. If that is likely to happen, if you are going to go into the draft, and if that is likely to happen, you would have this choice. You could give Dak Prescott $25 million a year, which would add up to around $100 million guaranteed if you gave him 4 years, or $125 if you gave him 5 years. Or for $36 million, you could go into the draft next year, get 4 years guaranteed, plus a 5th-year option, but 4 years guaranteed, draft Tua Tagovailoa, draft Jake Fromm, or draft Justin Herbert, right? All 3 of those guys, I think, are going to be in the top 10. Or you could wait another year and go get Trevor Lawrence, who will be the number 1 overall pick in the 2021 draft. All for $90 million less, potentially almost, than you're going to end up having to pay Dak Prescott, okay? So the Miami Dolphins are desperately in need of a quarterback, okay? What about another team that's desperately in need of a quarterback? How about the Cincinnati Bengals? The Cincinnati Bengals have a quintessential average quarterback on their team right now in Andy Dalton. They are paying Andy Dalton $16 million a year. Is there any way they want to replace a $16 million a year average quarterback in Andy Dalton with a $25 million a year average quarterback in Dak Prescott? No way at all, okay? No way at all that is remotely going to happen. The Bengals would rather also go into the draft, pay less money, and get a younger, potentially better quarterback. How about two teams that don't really know about their quarterback future right now? The Tennessee Titans and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you are a Titans or Bucs fan and you like Mariota or Jameis Winston but decide after 5 years they're not our guy, would you rather go into the draft and get Tua, Herbert, or potentially Jake Fromm? Those are just three. Or maybe Trevor Lawrence in 2 years, all for around $36 million, or would you rather pay $100 million on Dak Prescott? No way the Titans go get Dak Prescott. No way the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go get Dak Prescott, even if Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston don't pay out. The truth of the matter is straightforward here. Contract negotiations is all about market and market demand. If you look at the current NFL marketplace, there is no one out there that would give Dak Prescott $25 million a year guaranteed right now. So why in the world would the Dallas Cowboys give him $30 million? God forbid why they would give him $40 million. A big reason why Dak has been successful is because he costs almost nothing because he's a fourth-round pick, and the Cowboys have been able to surround him with a great deal of talent. As soon as they give him in the neighborhood of $30 million a year, guess what they got to do other places? Cut, cut, cut. A lot of that defensive talent, gone. A lot of that offensive talent, gone. If I'm the Dallas Cowboys and I'm Jerry Jones, I sit at that table, I say I won't give you a dime more than $25 million. Dak, I love you, but if you want more than $25 million, you are gone. We'll go back into the draft next year after another season. This is presuming that Dak plays about like he has so far in the first 3 years of his contract. Moreover, and I think this is a big story that isn't getting a lot of attention on here. Do you know why Zeke is setting out? Because he's got 2 years left and he knows Amari Cooper is going to get a big payday and he knows that Dak wants a big payday. If you are Jerry Jones, you have to have a budget for the entire team. Whatever you give to Dak or Amari Cooper or Ezekiel Elliott is money that you can't give to anyone else. So, what is your budget for those three players? Just think about it. $50 million? That's a lot for a quarterback, a wide receiver, and a running back. $60 million? Either way, if Dak gets near 30, you know Amari Cooper is going to want at least 16 or 17 a year, if not more, potentially up to 20. You simply don't have the money to give Ezekiel Elliott any more than $8 or $9 million a year, probably, and he's got to be number 3 on your flow chart. Again, the NFL has the salary cap to work with. These three guys are all competing with each other. And I will say this in Dak and Amari Cooper's favor. They have contracts and they're still showing up to work. What about Ezekiel Elliott, who isn't showing up for work and doesn't have a contract that expires for 2 more years? This really is about Ezekiel Elliott trying to get his money taken care of before Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott get taken care of. What Ezekiel Elliott is worried about, and the reason he is sitting out right now, is that Dak and Amari Cooper both get big contracts, and that leaves him no money. Think about it. That's why he's sitting out with 2 years left on his deal, because he's afraid that if Dak gets 30, and let's say Amari Cooper gets 20, then Ezekiel Elliott, there's nothing left for him. Anybody can always get hurt, but when you have a 2-year contract left, getting hurt is not as big of a deal. Right now, if Dak had an injury happen to him like happened to Teddy Bridgewater, he doesn't make anything. He's only made $4 million so far. Ezekiel Elliott has made way more. If Amari Cooper has a devastating knee injury happen to him, then he's not going to get anything either. Both of those guys have way more at risk than Ezekiel Elliott, yet they are showing up and working. But I will say this, bottom line, the Cowboys cannot pay Dak Prescott any more than $25 million a year. At best, he's average. He should get a contract somewhere in the neighborhood of what Nick Foles just got, $22 million a year on the open market. I think you have to call his bluff if you're Jerry Jones. You didn't become wealthy by overpaying for talent. No more than $25 million. After that, you let Dak walk. Maybe you work a trade deal, or you threaten to franchise him for a year if he's really being difficult, because you have to take care of the rest of the team. Okay, what about Hard Knocks? Hard Knocks is tonight. HBO. Like a lot of you, I am intrigued and was intrigued to watch the first episode of this show. It was a bust. It was not entertaining. We didn't learn anything at all. It was a poor approximation of NFL reality. It barely touched on the Antonio Brown craziness. Tonight, Hard Knocks is on the hot seat. If they don't address the zaniness of Antonio Brown and make it the focal point of this entire episode, it will be more proof of what many of us already believed, which is Hard Knocks just exists. It just exists to give an artificial version of reality and make you think you're getting a real version of reality. Remember that everything is edited, that everything is reviewed by the team, and that nothing goes on that show that the NFL and that the Oakland Raiders don't actually approve of. If the Antonio Brown story is not the entire basis for tonight's episode, then watching Hard Knocks for anything other than a completely manicured version of NFL training camp will be fully in effect. I think it is a big story if the NFL and Hard Knocks don't give us any reality inside of the Raiders camp. We'll find out tonight what ends up actually happening. This bothers me. This bothers me in a big way. We live in an era where everybody says it's important to hold politicians accountable. It's important to work on the truth. It's important to give the world an honest account of our political opinions. Elizabeth Warren, who is one of the leading candidates for the Democratic nomination, tweeted, 5 years ago, Michael Brown was murdered by a white police officer in Ferguson, Missouri. Michael was unarmed, yet he was shot 6 times, blah, blah, blah. She said he was murdered by a police officer. This is flagrantly a lie. It is 100% inaccurate. The Michael Brown decision, which was rendered by the Department of Justice after a complete investigation, determined that hands up, don't shoot was a number one lie. It was 100% inaccurate. Elizabeth Warren is trying to argue that she's going to be different than Donald Trump, that she's going to be honest, that she's going to bring back honor to the White House, or whatever that means. The officer Darren Wilson here, who killed Michael Brown, should sue Elizabeth Warren to bankrupt her for accusing him falsely of murder. I would love to see this lawsuit. This is defamation by a political candidate on behalf of a police officer who did nothing at all wrong. Elizabeth Warren, 100% lying. I want you to pay attention to the media coverage of this. Crickets. Almost nothing out there at all about her blatant lies, whether it was Pocahontas claiming that she's Native American or now lying about the Michael Brown incident, which is what began to foment all this fake racial division that has been manipulated by the media because they're all desperate for ratings, okay? Then Kamala Harris followed up on it. I'm going to have to block this guy because there's a couple people who are obsessed with coming in and blocking things. I don't comment a lot on individual Trump tweets because the media is obsessed. The media is completely obsessed with everything that Donald Trump says. They are obsessed to the nth degree. Most of what Donald Trump tweets are his opinions, okay? Most of what he tweets are his opinions. A lot of times I don't agree with them, but they are covered in such an aggressive fashion by the media. Everything that he says, every word is dissected for truth. Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris, 100% here, lies. 100% lies. Kamala Harris tweeted, Michael Brown's murder forever changed Ferguson and America. And it's a lie. Like, these women are lying. And why are they lying? Because they know that the Democrats' only path to winning in 2020 is if black voters show back up in the same numbers in Milwaukee, in Detroit, and in Philadelphia that they did for Obama. For all of the talk about Trump's racism, the simple truth is this. If the same people who voted for Barack Obama in 2016 had shown up in Philadelphia, Milwaukee, and in Detroit, black voters, then Hillary Clinton would be president. That's what would have happened. If the same voters who voted for Barack Obama had shown up to vote for Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton lacked Barack Obama's political talents, and so she ran an identity politics-laden election. If black voters are not convinced that Donald Trump is the Antichrist, then he's going to win again in 2020. And so whatever it takes to paint Donald Trump as a racist, then the Democrats are going to be willing to do, which is why they have advanced. This is fascinating. They have advanced from calling Donald Trump a racist to now, have you noticed that the favored term is white supremacist? Racism had lost all of its power because everything was racist, right? The word racism had lost almost all of its power. And so Democrats are getting desperate in an identity politics election, and instead of running against Trump, they're just trying to say bad things about him. And so everything he says, he's racist or he's a white supremacist. Now he's a white supremacist. It's the next level up. And they always say, well, he's got a dog whistle. Oh, he's trying to foment racial division. I'm not saying everything Donald Trump does is perfect. And unfortunately, I think at times he plays into their identity politics playbook. And I'm afraid of us having a 2020 identity politics laden election. But when you directly lie and say that Michael Brown was killed and murdered by a police officer, that's a lie. The Obama Justice Department under Eric Holder investigated it and proved that hands up, don't shoot is a lie. Why does the media not call Democrats on fomenting racial division by trying to convince black people that an untruth is actually true? In other words, that police shooting, which sparked all this talk about police officers being racist, was not, in fact, a truth, that it was, in fact, a lie. And by fomenting and continuing to embrace the anger and untruth of that lie, that's creating more racial division. It frustrates me that the media doesn't call a spade a spade. Don't call Mario Cuomo Fredo. Whatever you do, do not call Mario Cuomo Fredo. We need to introduce this clip. There's some cursing in it. Just so you know, if you haven't seen this clip that goes viral, Mario Cuomo has been called a Fredo. He then responds, Chris Cuomo. Mario Cuomo's dead. Mario Cuomo used to be the governor of New York. His son, Chris, Mario Cuomo did not get called Fredo. His son, Chris, has been called Fredo by someone out at a bar. Now, let me start here. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think it makes sense to go up to strangers and yell anything at them. I think it's a bad look, all right? I also think it's a bad look to pick up a video phone and try to record somebody responding angrily when you are trying to anger them, right? I don't think that should be encouraged. I don't think that's positive behavior. But Chris Cuomo's saying that calling an Italian person Fredo is the equivalent of calling a black person the N-word and threatening to beat the guy up who did it is so unintentionally hysterical that I watched it and I almost lost my mind laughing at how absurd it was. This is not a good look. And let me just put this out there. Unless you are in danger, I don't know why more people don't follow this. Unless you are in danger or being paid for combat, if you are over the age of 40 and you are in a fight, you look like a fool, all right? Let me make this clear. Unless you are in danger or your family's in danger or you are being paid for combat, any man over the age of 40 who fights looks like a complete and total loser idiot, all right? Having said that, Mario Cuomo, absurdly ridiculous. If you haven't seen this video, we're going to play it for you. We'll clip it. Enjoy the show. Finally, in a sign that you should not believe the worst about people, I have been arguing for a long time that we live in an age when whatever happens is immediately grabbed, all right? Is immediately grabbed, and people want to run with it and believe the worst about anyone involved. One of the first viral social media mob storms that led to a firing surrounded a headline from ESPN.com. During the Jeremy Lin insanity, a ESPN editor wrote, "Chink in the armor when the New York Knicks lost to a team during Linsanity." People saw the headline, immediately said, "Oh my God, this is a slur directed at Asian people," and the editor at ESPN.com was fired. He was stalked. It was a huge story. Jeremy Lin did not take offense. The better line would have been Nick in the armor. They may have used that before. Chink in the armor, obviously, is like something that somebody looks like they have, like they're indestructible, and then they end up with a chink in the armor and they end up leading to their destruction, right? Everybody loses their mind over this editor. Poor guy turns into a social media pariah. He's being stalked everywhere. He gets fired by ESPN. He goes into deep depression. And he ends up, to his credit, he ends up getting another job. And then he realizes, you know what my calling is? I wish I could become a Catholic priest. And so he goes into the ministry, and he has now become a fully ordained Catholic priest. That is wild to have that trajectory of his career. Utterly wild to see. Also a positive ending. I have been saying it for years, but why do we automatically assume the worst about somebody on social media? This guy may well end up being a great priest. He clearly is a pretty good dude if he's capable of bouncing back from this, and hopefully he'll be a good priest. But I always think that our mob justice system out there on social media assumes the worst about somebody. Good luck to that editor. I hope he turns into a great priest, and I hope it serves as further evidence of why automatically believing the worst about somebody is oftentimes not very justified at all. I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. I got to go record with Joel Klatt for the next podcast. We'll be live tomorrow. Great radio show coming. I'll see you guys. My name is Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. Enjoy. See y'all. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. See y'all.